and the fan. Adam.
I'm the fielder, Adam Rosales.
And I'm the fan, Noah Watkins. This is our first podcast, maybe our last. We'll see how it goes. This is Adam Rosales is a Major League Baseball player, and he happens to be my cousin. I'm a big fan of baseball. I've partly the reason why I'm such a big fan is I had an opportunity to grow up with Adam, and he was always really good at baseball. I was always really not good at baseball, but I always had fun playing, and then eventually watching him kind of come up, I knew from a really early age that he was going to become a Major League Baseball player. I remember I would tell that to people, and they'd be like, yeah, sure, yeah. But I just always knew that he would. So it's been a lot of fun to be able to kind of watch his career develop from Little League, watching him in high school. Actually, even before that, he was on some travel teams. I actually even got to go with him on. I traveled with them purely as a fan, not as a player. Like I said, I was never very good. Again, watched him through college and then through the minor leagues, and eventually becoming a Major League Baseball player. As I talk to other people, I realized that I kind of have a really unique opportunity as a baseball fan, being so close to my cousin who's a Major League Baseball player. I've gotten to learn a lot of things that the average fan wouldn't get to learn, and kind of some really cool stuff. And Adam and I have always had these wonderful conversations on the phone where I ask him a lot of fun questions, and and he gives me great responses. And so we thought it would be fun to put this on a podcast and kind of give you guys the opportunity to also get the inside scoop that I've had the privilege of having for my whole life. So
no, I got a question for you. When you talk to your friends, do you always tell them like that you're the one that taught me how to hit a fastball properly?
Oh, absolutely. That's true. I did teach you how to hit a fastball properly. What I did was, so we used to play. We used to play all the time, and Adam's dad would go out to the diamond. Adam's dad would pitch to us, and so one time I said, "All right, Adam, I'm going to teach you how to properly hit a fastball." So I said, "Uncle Will, go ahead, throw me your fastest ball." Right? So I got up, I lined up at the plate, and Uncle Will threw the ball. I swung, missed by like a mile. Wasn't even close. And I looked at Adam and I said, "Adam, now I want you to do the opposite of everything I just did."
And I did, and luckily I took that advice, and now I'm a Major League Baseball player. So
that's right. It's all me.
But like Noah said, I've been lucky enough to play Major League Baseball. I've been playing for 8 seasons now. I debuted on August 9th, 2008 for the Cincinnati Reds, and
I was in my car outside the stadium for that.
But you made the effort. You came all the way from Wisconsin, right?
That's right. We found out. Adam got the call. He called us. I was actually up in Wisconsin with my family. I was actually just so happened that I was in between jobs at the time, and Adam told us. So I found out, I don't know, like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or maybe even a little earlier than that. And I was like, all right. So I literally hopped in my car from Wisconsin. I just started driving, and I literally was outside the stadium listening to the local radio station. As Adam got his first major league at bat. I mean, it was
no. How fast were you driving to get to Cincinnati?
I'm not going to admit to breaking any laws, but I definitely made a quick pace. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I like to insert my cameos in Adam's life. So that was one of them. Go ahead.
Now, did you get to see me? You were there for my debut, but did you get to see my first at bat or no?
I didn't get to see your first at bat. I was listening to your first at bat.
Got you.
I just pulled in front of the stadium, and I found the radio station that was broadcasting the Reds game, and yeah. So and your bat happened, and I believe you popped out.
Yeah, I did. You know what? That's a good memory. But fastball. Talk about fastballs. Right down the middle. I took a first pitch. I swing at it, drive it to the warning track to right field at the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Guy's backing up at the track. I'm watching this all happen. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just hit a home run. And then he leaps up and catches it at the wall.
Oh, that's what it was. That's right.
Yeah, it was that was exciting for me. I mean, I got a little cheer from the Reds fans as I took that first swing, but I was number 60. That was my that's the number I debuted in. Number 60 is a pretty heavy number to wear, you know.
I did get this. So I stayed. I watched, I don't know, a few games, and then I did see your first major league hit, which was it happened a couple of days later.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was in Pittsburgh, right?
It was. Yeah, we literally. So there was like, what was it? 2 games in Cincinnati. So I watched the next game in Cincinnati, and then you guys had a series in Pittsburgh, and I just popped in my car and I drove to Pittsburgh. I met you there. I stayed in your hotel room. I think.
Yeah, man.
I also remember too. We were a little embarrassed that you were always like you were a little worried that the guys would walk in and there'd be this random guy hanging out in your room. You'd be like, what's going on here? But yeah, it was.
That was awesome, man. I'm glad you were there for that.
A lot of fun.
I remember that day. That was really memorable. My first major league hit was because I had gone 0 for 6, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I ever gonna get this first major league hit? So you kind of start pressing a little bit and start putting all that added pressure on yourself, and then finally I got to face a lefty, Sean Burnett, and I remember he threw me a fastball, and I just ripped it up the middle, and yeah, that was a really memorable day for sure. But
and I was acting like a lunatic in the stands. I mean,
you usually act like a lunatic. No,
that is true. Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to have my cousin playing the game. That's just how I watch baseball. So.
So what's probably one of your favorite memories? Anything from back when, even in Little League, when you used to come to the travel ball or whatever? Anything that stands out in your mind of?
Yes, I do. Okay, so this is one of my favorite memories. So Adam did a showcase in Washington, D.C., and I got to go with them. How old were you, Adam? Was it the Diamonds that you were playing?
Yeah. I forgot what team it was for, but I do remember going to that showcase. It was when I was like 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah, it was either the Lakeside Cardinals or it was the Diamonds. I can't remember. But so we had a showcase, and there was, it was a big deal. And it was like a minor league. Was it a minor league baseball stadium you were playing in?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a college stadium.
Yeah, or a college stadium. But it was like it was a nice stadium. I remember watching. Anyways, so I remember Adam comes up to bat, and he rips a line drive, and I'm telling you, it was just impressive. I mean, this thing was just a rocket launcher, man. Just went line drive right into the umpire's chest. It was standing between second and shortstop, right? I don't know exactly where he was standing, but it knocked him in the chest, and the guy fell down. They had to have medical people come in and and carry the guy off the field.
I mean, we're laughing about this, but it's really not funny. It was actually pretty serious at the time, but I think the umpire was all right, but it was kind of.
No.
He was a funny memory. I do remember that.
He was fine, and Adam was always more tactful. I'm sure Adam was concerned about it, but I was thinking oh, smokes, man! They just knocked that umpire down. But I also remember,
that's a great memory. Actually, another that was I have a pretty good memory about that trip too.
Oh no, I know what it is.
I don't know if you remember this, but it was the first time I ever had to stay in a hotel.
Oh, okay. Right?
I had to stay with another team. I've never met these guys before, so I go to my hotel room, and there's a whole team already in one room, and I'm like, "This is my hotel room, guys," and they're like, "No, it's not." It turns out that there was 2 teams with the same name. We were the Metro All-Star or whatever. I guess they were from Detroit or something, or a different city. And I was from Chicago, and they made sure they knew that I wasn't on their team. And so I called my parents up. I'm like, Mom and Dad, you got to come get me. I just freaked out. But I remember that from that was my first experience of traveling in a hotel. But
That's funny. I don't remember exactly why I went, but I remember that was my first time going to Washington D.C. So
yeah, that was neat. Get to see got to see Washington D.C. Got to see the city and everything. That's what's cool about playing baseball. Like when I was younger, I didn't realize like obviously that I'd still be playing Major League Baseball and traveling around and seeing the United States. But like when you're younger, you get to. That stuff's it's important to go see different states and experience different cities. But now I've been to Japan, I've been to Puerto Rico, I've been to Mexico, and I've been to almost every state in America just because I'm a baseball player, and it's pretty fortunate, to have done that.
well, that's awesome. And I want to ask you some questions about that a little bit later, especially kind of about minor league stops and kind of what your favorite places are. But before that, just tell us a little bit more, Adam, about your kind of your journey in the major leagues to the point where we're at right now. So obviously we just talked about you came up to the Reds organization, made your major league debut at Great American Ballpark.
So I got drafted in the 12th round as out of Western Michigan as a 4-year, as a senior. I was a senior signed, so I was lucky that they just gave me a flight to rookie ball, which was in Billings, Montana. And I don't know, I always had my sights set on the major leagues ever since I was a little kid. But I just took the steps forward, and I was lucky that I always excelled I excelled in Billings, Montana. And I got called up that year that I got drafted in 2005. I got called up to Dayton, Ohio. And I love Dayton. Dayton was like getting a call to the major leagues. That stadium is unbelievable. If you guys ever get a chance to go. Noah, did you get to go to Dayton or no?
I saw you play actually at the Kane County Cougars.
Yeah, for the Dayton Dragons.
But never actually saw you play at Dayton.
Yeah, so Dayton was unbelievable. They had this huge dragon. If you hit home runs, it like makes this loud noise and it shoots smoke out of his nose. I don't know, it's just crazy. But so I went from there. I went to Sarasota after that. So I went to High A, and then from there I went to Double A, which is Chattanooga, and then Triple A went to Louisville, and that's where I got my call up in 2008 to the major leagues. But that's just a quick little summary. Obviously there's a lot that goes into my trek to the major leagues, but that's
real quick, Adam, tell us a little bit about the experience of getting that first call up. Rick Sweet was your manager, right?
Yeah, Rick Sweet.
Just tell us a little bit about what that experience was like, and just tell us that story real quick.
There's only a couple times in my life where it feels like time has stopped and you feel like an out-of-body experience, is happening. And that was one of them for sure. And it was kind of funny how it happened because I was in the batting cage down below in Louisville, just doing some extra BP on my own off the tee. And I come into the clubhouse and it's like empty. And I'm like, oh my God, this is kind of odd. Like, what's going on? And out of nowhere, Rick Sweet comes out and says, Rosales, I'm sick of it. You're late for stretch. I'm sick of it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm never late for stretch. And he says, Rosales, that's it. Pack your bags. You're going to Cincinnati. And I think, oh my gosh, I about jumped to the roof. That's what I always say. But like I said before, it's like time just stopped. And it's like, I'm a major leaguer. I did it. I'm there. But then, so that was my call up. But then I have more to say about being in the major leagues. So once you think you're there, you get slapped in the face, and they'll send you down really quick. But they say it's easy to get there, but it's tough to stay there. But
I don't think anyone would say it's easy to get to the major leagues.
It's not.
One of the things that this is a little bit of a side note, but one of the things I was really impressed with was that last year, a couple years ago, we were at here in Chicago suburb, you were asked to be part of this big this forum with a couple guys that had been in minor leagues and played in college, and it was for the high school students for a Notre Dame high school, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the guys pointed out, they're talking about like how many different, how many kids play Little League baseball, and it's like, millions, whatever it is. It's just like a crazy number. And then talked about how many kids play high school, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but again, it's like 100,000 kids play, and then again you get down to how many people get college, how many people get Division I college opportunities, and then how many people go from that to the minor leagues. The number gets smaller and smaller, and you just think about it crazy. And then how many players can be Major League Baseball players at any given time that are actually on the 25-man roster, Adam?
So it's 25 times 30, and I believe that's 750, right?
Yeah. So that's a pretty incredible number to think about. How many people start off playing Little League, and then how many people actually end up being to where you're at. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's just something that
that's a good point. It's definitely elite, and you're right. It's not easy to get to the major leagues. You're right, but once you get there, it's magnified as it's extremely difficult to stay there.
Absolutely.
And to make a career out of it. Like I said, once you think you've got it, and you're like, oh, I belong here, you're humbled really quick, and you always try to fight. I've always grinded it out. I've always been a grinder to try to battle to find a way to stay in the major leagues, and just I guess because I play hard and I'm a solid teammate. I feel like I really care about my teammates and building relationships with my teammates. And obviously I have the talent, else I wouldn't be here, but I think I've been fortunate that people have been in my corner and given me the opportunities that they have. But.
All right. So so you got called up, you're in Cincinnati. Where do you go from there?
Cincinnati. So I debut in 2008, and then I don't make the team out of spring training in 2009. So they sent me back to Louisville. But in Louisville, I hit like 400 in the month of April.
I remember.
I just went off on a tear. And then they called me up. They called me back up, and I was up for, I think, the majority of that year. I was up in the major leagues and I completed my first full year, I think. But then, so I made a decision that I was going to go play winter ball in Mexico after that 2009 season. And that was extremely challenging and difficult because at the end of the season, all these guys are like, oh, I'm going home. It was such a long season, and I get to go see my family. I'm so happy. And I was just sitting by my locker thinking, I'm going to be in Mexico in about 2 days, still grinding it out. And I did. I went down to Mexico and learned a ton down there, and again, built solid relationships with the Mexican players.
Was that the first time you played?
It turns out that the next year, in 2010, I got traded to Oakland, and that was the best year that I had in the major leagues because I went down to Mexico and played. But so from there, from Oakland, had my best year, but then I got injured, right?
I remember.
I had a fracture, a hairline fracture on my navicular bone. And on that bone, there's no blood flow to it, and it wouldn't heal. If you would guess, how long do you think it would take to heal a bone on your foot?
I remember thinking you would be back, at a couple months.
Yeah, like 3 to 4 months, right? Try to finish the season. It took 10 months. It took 10 months to heal that little bone on my foot because there's no blood flow to it. So coming back in 2011. was very difficult for me. That was tough. It was a very challenging season, and it really took me a long time to get back to where I wanted to be. But finally, in 2012, it clicked again. But they kept sending me up and down because I still had options left. And in the major leagues, you have 3 options, but that was the third option that I would burn was in 2012. Kept sending me up and down, up and down. And I remember one day I was like, Bob Melvin called me into his office and said, we're sending you back to AAA, Adam. And I never say anything in these meetings, Noah. Like, I never say anything. And I was frustrated with myself and the whole situation. And I spoke up. I spoke up and I asked Bob Melvin, I told Bob Melvin, I said, Bob, I wish you guys had more confidence in me and kept me here and let me get through this. And Bob Melvin, wisely and probably some of the best advice that I've ever had in my life, he said, before we can have confidence in you, Adam, you have to have confidence in yourself. And it was like, I was just taken back by it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the answer. I had a lack of confidence. And that's why I was going back and forth, because I didn't believe in myself. And after I injured my foot, it took me a long time to get back. And once Bob Melvin told me that, it was like a light switch went on inside of me. And Bob Melvin's got to be one of the best managers that I've ever played for. And so I'm grateful for that experience. And then, I came back at the end of the season and I got to go to the playoffs with the Oakland A's in 2012. And that was super exciting because we were down. We were back 6 games from the Texas Rangers. We were down 6 games with 9 games left, I believe. I could be slightly wrong about that, but so we had to sweep every team that we played, and they had to lose to every team. And it happened, man. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but it was
no, I remember very well. I remember very well. It was one of those came down to the last game of the season, and you guys made it wild card spot, right?
No, we won the AL West.
Oh, we won the AL West. That's right. That was right.
We took it, man. And unbelievable. I mean, that was awesome. That was one of my most favorite years of baseball ever. So it was cool. But you're a big Cubs fan, aren't you? I mean, you didn't really care about the Oakland A's, did you?
No, what I always tell people is, I grew up a big Cubs fan. And I obviously I follow them, pretty closely, and I still do to this day. But when you've got a cousin and a friend that's as close as you are to me, playing in the major leagues, whatever team you're on becomes my team, right? So even though I'm a Cubs fan, by birth and by right, whenever you're playing on a major league team, even if it's a team that I previously didn't like, it becomes my team. And I don't want to say I forget about the Cubs, but if I have 5 minutes to take time to look at baseball stats, I'm looking at the stats of the team you're on, and I'm not even paying attention to the Cubs.
Yeah, for sure. Noah, tell that story about I slightly forget the details, but when I kept going back from Texas to the A's, didn't your dad get you a hat or something, or like?
Yeah, he did. I mean, at one point, so now for your casual fan of baseball, the name Adam Rosales may not necessarily be something that pops out right away and go, oh, I know exactly who he is. But this is one of the things that might trigger it. And so what year was that? 2012?
2013.
2013. Adam went back and forth between the Oakland Athletics and the Texas Rangers 3 times. So he was released by the Oakland Athletics to be picked up by the Rangers. The Rangers had him on their team for 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, maybe at most.
Yeah, if that. And then so in that time when the Rangers picked him up, my dad had been by a shop that sold Major League hats, and he bought a couple of Texas Rangers hats. And so I was coming back from Michigan, and my wife and family were there, and I actually had to come back to work. I actually took a ferry from Michigan to Milwaukee, and so when I left, Adam was a Ranger, and so my dad had bought these hats, and so when I got off the boat, he was going to give me this hat. And so just as I was walking off the boat, just like that. I like that. So anyways, just as I was getting out the boat, I looked at my phone and I see that the Rangers had gone ahead and they had released Adam. And so my dad, he'd been driving, so he didn't know this news. So, he came to pick me up, and he had the Rangers hats in his hands, and he was I took the hat from him, and I said, "You should take this back." And I broke the news to my dad that Adam had been released by the Rangers, but then the A's ended up picking him back up.
So your dad must have been really confused, Noah. Like, he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, it was a little confusing. So then I was like, oh, we can use our Oakland A's gear again, because he got picked up back by the A's, right? And then he was on the A's for another few games, and then they released him again. And at that point we're thinking, oh well, unfortunately this is not looking like Adam's season. Looks like he's gonna go have to spend some time in AAA, and it turns out that the Rangers picked him up again. So at that point, this was like a week later or whatever it was, and I still had my dad had given me that. I still had it in my car, and I was driving to a restaurant to meet my dad for lunch, and so just as I checked my phone and I just got the message that Adam had gotten picked up by the Rangers again. And so I came walking into the restaurant with my dad, my brother-in-law, and a couple other people, and I was wearing the Rangers hat. They look at me, and I was like, "He's a Ranger!"
Unbelievable, man.
So
that's funny.
It was a good purchase. And Adam spent a couple seasons with the Rangers.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time with the Rangers, for sure.
So tell us this. So Adam is now with the San Diego Padres. How did that come about? How did you end up? Tell us a little bit about the off season, and let's start talking about this spring training.
Yeah, so the Rangers they designated me last year, which is 2015. They designated me, and then I asked for my release, hoping that I would get picked up by a team for a playoff push in 2015. But nobody picked me up, so I spent the whole off season waiting for some kind of opportunity, and nothing really came that we wanted. And then finally, the Padres offered us a minor league deal with their club, and I jumped on that because I have it's a long, not a long story, but I'm a big fan of Andy Green, right? Andy Green is the manager of the San Diego Padres. First
year manager,
first time ever managing. And I was so happy when he got the manager job, because I know he's a super smart guy. And I was just happy for him. I didn't even think about playing for him. It didn't really cross my mind. But then the later it got in the season, in the off season, I'm like, man, that would be a great opportunity to play for Greeny, because I played with him and I knew how smart he was and how well he knew the game, and he knew me as a baseball player too. So I'm like, and it's the National League. I feel like I'm a lot better in the National League than I would be in the American League, just because of my versatility. But so that was really attractive to me to possibly, to earn a spot on the Major League roster and to play for Andy Green, who was my roommate actually on the road in AAA in Louisville in 2008. So it's kind of, and it happened, it worked out. It's crazy how,
So
how it
just
worked
so
out.
happened. So just so happened, it was kind of at the beginning of your career, it was just before you got called up, and it was at the end of his career that you guys
Yep.
kind of met up in Louisville. So they invited you to spring training, but with an invitation to spring training, or so the big league camp.
Yeah, it was a non-roster invitee. That's what I was. So I wasn't on the roster.
And is it fair to say you could have done that at a lot of other teams, right?
Yeah, I could have. I think so, but we kind of held out we were hoping for a major league deal, but it's obviously very tough to get a Major League Baseball deal. So
Adam, I know we've talked about this before, and you said when you first got to spring training this year, you felt like it was the way that the spring training was run was a lot different than other spring trainings that you've been involved in. You've obviously been involved in a lot now. Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, I mean, obviously all the organizations have been great, but this spring training was super organized. You could tell that Greeny and their staff put a lot of thought and a lot of time into how well it's structured. There was absolutely no standing around. Like, we were always moving, doing something. We went from team defense to individual defense to batting practice to hitting in the cage to doing bunting practice to doing more defense. We were never standing around, and I think that's the toughest part about spring training is, and that usually happens when you're shagging out in the field, during BP. Usually just standing around, and it kind of just zaps you a little bit, zaps your energy and your drive, I guess. Especially, because spring training can get a little bit longer, but they did such a good job structuring that, and the playing time that we had. I mean, everybody got to play every day, and just I just think, I mean, I don't think you can run spring training any better than that.
So you had to leave spring training in the middle of it for a few days. Did you have a good excuse for that?
Yeah, pretty good excuse. I mean, it was only our, my wife was only having our second child at the time, so yeah, so I got to, and they were really lenient for me to do that too. Obviously, we all know that family is the most important thing in our lives, but yeah, they let me go home or fly back to where my wife Callie's from, and that's in Cleveland, and our son Adrian was born.
Home of Chicago. Don't you ever forget that.
Yeah, home.
Don't forget that.
Home of Chicago, where my wife's home. But yeah, so I got to go home, or I got to go back to Cleveland. I got to go back to Cleveland for that, and obviously that's a very unbelievable experience to see one of your children born. So, and then yeah, I came back. I took 2 days off for that, and then came back to spring training.
So, Adam, what would you say was the highlight of spring training for you?
Highlight? I mean, on the field highlight was hitting 4 home runs 4 days in a row. And the first one was actually in Mexico City, which was cool.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, Adam. Because so for those who don't know, Adam's father is from Mexico, and so Adam's is half Mexican by birth, and so what was it like to be able to be playing in Mexico City? You mentioned earlier you actually played a season in the Mexican League, but what was it like to be able to on that sort of stage to be in Mexico City and then perform the way that you did in front of the people that was your heritage?
Yeah, man, it's the people, first of all, were very appreciative of us being down there, and just to see how much passion and desire that they have for baseball was pretty remarkable, and it was neat to be down there and obviously Major League Baseball took really good care of us as well. But yeah, when they announced my name, they were going through the lineup and they're announcing all the starting lineups for the San Diego Padres, and they got to my name and they said it. They really emphasized, Adam Rosales, and like the place gave a pretty solid cheer for me. So it was pretty pretty exciting to hear how much they appreciated me and and my last name and our heritage. But it was cool. It was a really neat experience. They only chose about half the guys to go down to Mexico City to experience that, and I was fortunate enough to have done that. So the field was like it was a really small stadium. It was like probably a single A, double A type stadium, but it was exciting. It was really cool.
Did you get to do any interviews in Spanish?
No, my Spanish is not that good. But I mean, I did one last year in Chicago, and they interviewed me in Spanish, and I did okay. And then everybody was listening. All the Latin guys were listening, and they gave me a standing ovation after I was done doing the interview.
I remember that. I remember watching that. So I watched the video of that. Of course, I didn't understand a word of it because I do not speak Spanish. Just in case you haven't figured out, I am not on the Mexican side of Adam's family. I'm on the very white side of Adam's family. But yeah, so I remember watching that and thinking that was a lot of fun. So, all right, so Adam, bring us to yesterday. I mean, we're talking yesterday. Tomorrow is opening day, and yesterday is when they made the decision to finalize the 25-man roster. It came down to the wire. So you're at the field, whatever they call you in. Tell us who was there and tell us about that experience and what they told you.
I've been wrestling or dreading that day probably halfway through spring training. It was on my mind. The competition was great in spring training with Jamal Weeks and Alexi Amarista. All of us competing for the utility spot. I mean, these guys are, first of all, great teammates and just great ball players as well. So it's just tough, to compete against these guys but the whole spring training or half of spring training, I got nervous and I was wrestling. I'm like, just stop thinking about it. Stop thinking about it. I actually struggled halfway through spring training. And then finally I stopped thinking about it and I just started focusing on the task at hand and playing baseball. And I started playing the way I knew how to play. And but still I didn't think it was enough because of how well the other guys were playing. And yesterday I played horrible during this exhibition game against the White Sox. But I struck out. It felt horrible, but because my mind was so focused on the meeting after the game, I'm like, I'm just dreading this, and I'm just sitting by my locker, seeing all these guys come in and going into the office where the manager Andy Green and the general manager AJ Preller are, and I'm just seeing them walk out, just upset. And I'm like, oh man, it was almost like inevitable to me. I'm just kind of a doomsday, just and it's tough to stay positive in this moment. But I saw Alexi Amarista go in, and he came out, and he doesn't show too much emotion, so I didn't know. I couldn't tell what they told him. And then Jamal Weeks went in, and he came out, and I couldn't really tell how he felt. And then they called my name. Mark McGuire, actually, he's the bench coach. He called my name, said, "Rosie, you're next." And it's a slow, long walk into this office, man. Like you feel so small. Everything you just don't know what to expect. So I sat down in the chair in front of Andy Green's desk, and AJ Preller's there, the general manager, Josh Stein, the assistant general manager. And then coaches like Glenn Hoffman, Eddie Rodriguez, Mark McGuire, all these guys are in there. And Greeny says, Rosie, sit down. You know, I've told you about this before. It's been great competition this whole spring training. You did everything that you could. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've heard this before. You know, I know exactly what's coming. I wish I could have seen my face. It was probably very just droopy looking, like, all right, just give it to me already. Just tell me, you know, I didn't make the team. And then Greeny's like, yeah, you know, you did your best, and we just want to tell you that you're on the opening day roster, you know. And I clapped my hands like really quick and like jumped out of my seat. And I walked over to Greeny, gave him a hug, and gave everybody else a hug in the room. But man, tell you how nervous that is, and what a relief it is, and what a privilege it is to be on the opening day roster. I mean, I hope I painted that picture all right, you know, to understand the emotion that I felt, and just the relief. And but see, the thing is, the crazy thing is that that's just what I mean. It's a big hurdle, right, to make the team. But now, like, so what, right? Now it's go time. I mean, we're facing Kershaw tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I think I've heard that guy before. I think he's half decent.
Yeah, he's all right. So we're facing the Dodgers tomorro.
Have you faced
opening day?
So
what happened in spring training? It's go time, man. Like it's time to. It's serious, you know, and it's going to be a good challenge.
Have you faced Kershaw in the past?
I have one time.
And what was the result of that?
Actually, I got a base hit off of him at the middle. Prince Fielder was on second base, and I was trying to get him over. You know, when there's nobody out and nobody out and a runner on second base, you're trying to get him over. So I was doing everything I could to get him over, and Kershaw threw me a cutter inside, and I swung through it. Like, oh man, he knows exactly what I'm trying to do, and he's not going to let me do it, right? So I backed off the plate about 3 or 4 inches. I made an adjustment right there. That's what you have to do when you're in the major leagues. You have to make an adjustment. In baseball, you have to make an adjustment. So I backed off the plate 3 or 4 inches, and he threw me another cutter inside, and I muscled it through the middle for a base hit. So I got Prince to third base, and then I was on first. So I got a hit off of him, and then he walked me on 4 straight pitches. Actually, he struck me out. Sorry, I'm not gonna discredit his performance by any means. But then he struck me out, but then he walked me on 4 straight, and I could feel his frustration. I think he said something out loud, but he was upset with himself for walking me on 4 straight balls. But yeah, I've faced him before, and I like facing guys like that. You know, I like facing guys because you got nothing to lose. You know, like those guys are supposed to beat you. So
all the pitchers, Adam, that you've faced in your career, who's the one guy that you distinctly remember just being like, that was nasty. I don't know how anybody ever could possibly hit that.
Brandon Webb. Brandon Webb back in 2008 or 2009 maybe. I was with the Reds still, and this guy's sinker was like he's a right-handed pitcher, so the ball sunk into me, but it was like a left-handed sharp curveball. You get that? You get that image?
Yeah.
Like it was nasty, a sinker breaking like that. And so I try to approach him. I try to look up. I try to look for the ball up by my chest. That's the adjustment that I try to make. I try to look for the ball up by my chest because if it was any lower than that, it was going to sink out of the zone. But I just even if I did that, I couldn't. Brandon, that's the guy I remember being the toughest.
So did you ever get a hit off of him, or?
No, I didn't. I don't think I foul tipped the ball. No.
All right. So who's the guy who you've faced who is a really good pitcher, or for whatever reason you've got his number?
Chris Sale, probably. Most people know Chris Sale. I mean, he's an outstanding pitcher. I mean, throws 97, 98. miles per hour from the
Lefty.
is left-handed and slings it. It's a really awkward delivery. Lefties, he devastates lefties, left-handed hitters. Left-handers just hate facing him. But I don't know. Like, he just comes right at me. And maybe he probably won't do that anymore, though. But I feel like I've always felt good off him. I don't know why.
How many home runs do you have off of him, Adam?
So I have 3 homers off of him, and that's the most I have off anybody. I don't think I've ever hit multiple homers off of somebody, and I hit 3 homers off Chris Sale. But
And it's like what? You have like 15 at bats against him, and I think you're like 7 or 8 for 15, something like that at this point.
Yeah, something like that. I guess. Yeah, I can't really explain it. I think I just got nothing to lose against a pitcher of that caliber. You know, I'm just stay aggressive, and if I strike out, so what? You know, maybe that's how I should approach everybody. Noah, you think? Just kind of.
Yeah.
I got nothing to lose.
And and I think you also have had, for whatever reason, you've always had a lot of success against the White Sox, and I think it partly, it's been you're at home in Chicago. You get to be in front of.
I used to be a Cubs fan. It's the Cubs fan blood in me that I still have, that still wants to beat those White Sox. Is that what you're saying, Noah?
I think that is not what I was getting at, but I like that. I like that a lot. I think that sounds really good. No, I like the White Sox as well. I mean, obviously, I'm a Cubs fan. I always say that Cubs fans, I believe, can, whatever. The White Sox are the White Sox. We don't hate the White Sox. The White Sox fans, well, I don't know.
No, tell them about that one time. And when we went to I guess it was called Comiskey Park. I don't think it was called U.S. Cellular yet, but you wore a Cubs hat.
Yeah.
U.S. Cellular. What happened?
That's not the story I thought you were getting at. I'll tell 2 stories about White Sox. Why I've had a hard time with their fans. But yeah, I was. We were. I think it was right after your first year in the minor leagues, right? Or was this before that? Were we at high school?
Before that. I think I was still in college, actually. I got Drew Stroke from college.
All right, so we decided to go to a White Sox game. It was actually, I remember they had this promotion that if you brought a Pepsi product, you get you buy one ticket, you get the second one half off, right? So we had gotten Pepsi products, and we brought them, and we got the tickets to the game anyways. And it was me, you, I believe it was your mom, right, to the game?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Anyways, and I had this hat that I always wore. It was like a trucker style hat, and it happened to be a Cubs hat, right? And I wore this hat every single day. It was.
Did it had a Pepsi logo on it?
No, the hat didn't. We had to bring like an empty bottle of Pepsi to get the discount. I don't know why I did that, but whatever. So anyway, I had this hat, and I'm wearing it, and I think you might have pointed out to me like, "Hey, you're wearing a Cubs hat at a White Sox game," and I thought, I wouldn't have done it on purpose. I wasn't that guy just to wear a Cubs hat just what I was wearing, and I thought, whatever, I'm just gonna wear it. I think you encouraged me to keep it in the car, and I said, whatever, I'm just gonna wear it. It's my hat, So we're walking, and we walk in the stadium, and again, I was confident that I was going to wear this hat. Didn't matter. Literally, the first guy we see that we're walking. This guy's walking from the other direction, and this guy was like, who knows how big he really was, but in my mind, this guy was like 7 foot tall and like 400 pounds. I'm telling you, this guy was huge, a massive man, and he looks at me. And he points to the Cubs hat, and just gives me a nod, and then kind of take that off. and you know what I did? So he said, "Take that off," and I said, "Yes, sir." Took the hat off, put it in my back pocket, and then took it out. Just to get him.
Oh man, I remember that. That was a lot. We were cracking up.
So, but my other one was when and maybe I haven't told you the story, Adam, but I was whenever we go to Adam's games, I'm that guy. I wear Adam's jersey or a jersey with Adam's name on the back of it. And so I remember going to a White Sox game. I can't remember I think it was Adam was still in Oakland at the time, and I had Adam's jersey on the back of my and this guy and somebody was was surprised that I had an Adam Rosales jersey because Adam, I think this was at a time where he was kind of going back and forth between the majors and the minors, and I think his batting average, actually I remember because on the screen his batting average wasn't very good at the time. He just gotten called back up. Right, I think this was the year that he was recovering from the injury, and whatever his batting average was, some guy came up to me and said, "Hey, why are you wearing the jersey of a guy batting, whatever Adam's average was?" And I just looked at the guy. I go, "Dude, he's my cousin." And the guy just kind of like shrunk back a little bit. He was like, "Oh, sorry, bro." This is like, I was like, if you see somebody wearing the name of a baseball player you've never heard of, and there's like a group of like 15 of them in a random city, it's probably the guy's family, like.
No, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you got to be aware. Court awareness, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, you should wear a Mike Trout jersey, and then be like, "Hey, like, how do you know Mike Trout?" You should say, "Hey, he's my cousin."
Yeah, well, then that might get me some attention. No, no, I love I love going to the games, watching Adam play. I mean, wherever we're at, I've had the opportunity to see Adam play at several stadiums now. I think I've actually gone to I've seen him play I think it was 10 different baseball stadiums, something like that.
That's solid, man. That's a good amount of stadiums.
Major league stadiums. Now, if you count in minor league stadiums, it's another 10. So real quick, I know I don't want to take too much more time on this podcast today. I've had a lot of fun with this, and I think that we will survive to have another one. I agree. So I don't want to use up all of our material, but what was your favorite minor league baseball stadium that you ever played at?
Favorite minor league baseball stadium?
Yeah.
The most surprising was Dayton, Ohio, but my favorite has to be Louisville. I really enjoyed Louisville. I don't know. I just like the playing surface was their grounds crew did a great job. I like the playing surface. I like the atmosphere. They always had a band playing before, especially on Thursday, whatever, in right center field. That was always fun. Just I don't know, just a lot of memories in Louisville. But so I would go with Louisville as my favorite stadium.
All right. Well, one other thing we want to do, I think this will be a regular segment on here, is give Adam the opportunity to share some of his knowledge with any young baseball fan that would be listening, someone who's inspired to play in the major leagues, or just wanting to improve their little league game. We're gonna have an opportunity for Adam to give us a major league tip. So Adam, what's your tip you have for us today for a young fan listening? What's something that you could tell him to help him improve his game?
All right, so I like this part of this segment. So I'll just give you a quick tip about what I do off a tee when I'm hitting off of a tee. It's very important to me. Obviously, the ball's not moving, and you can concentrate on mechanics a little bit. But the key, as funny as it sounds, the ball's not moving. You have to really concentrate on the ball. A lot of people don't do this. They just kind of nonchalantly swing at it. But me, I like looking at the baseball. I like looking at the front of it, like the front of the baseball, like more towards the pitcher, right?
Okay.
And I kind of act like the ball's moving. So I see it. I see the front of the baseball, and then when I load and I stride, my eyes go to the back of the baseball, and that's where the target is. Where you want to hit a baseball is the back inside part of the baseball. And if you can concentrate on doing that, if you can focus on doing that when you do tee work, look at the front of the baseball. And then when you're going through your motions, your mechanics, let your eyes move to the back of the baseball, the back inside part of the baseball. I mean, I hope that makes sense. I mean, Noah, maybe you can hit now after I've given that tip.
Maybe. Adam, explain. So when you say load and stride, what do you mean by that?
Load and stride. I mean, that's your timing, right? When you load, you want to put your weight into your back hip, right? Into your back hip, and I like to keep my back elbow up. So that's my load. I really put all my weight to my back side. It's almost like a slingshot, right? When you take a slingshot, you want to pull it back, and all that potential energy is just ready to go. And then once you release it, that's it. You don't want it to drift in. So that's the load. The stride, and then you stride into it, right? So the load is the slingshot. You gather all that weight, that potential energy to the backside, and then you stride. You make a move to the ball. You're moving towards the ball, and while you're doing that, off the tee, you got to make sure your eyes move from the front of the ball to the back inner half of the ball. So, does that make sense to you, Noah, or
Yeah, no,
as a fan's perspective?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if it would do me any good because I think I'm beyond help.
Sure.
But I will, next time I go to have opportunity to hit off a tee, I will definitely try that out, and I'll report back to you.
Oh, yeah. Please do. I'll give you a grade. I'll see if you pass or fail.
Well, Adam, as always, it is a pleasure speaking to you. This was a lot of fun. I hope that we'll do this again, and I hope that you out there listening in podcast land have enjoyed this. Please give us some feedback. Let us know what you'd like to hear in future podcasts.
All right. It was fun. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Out.